Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and in today's video we're going to be doing some New Year nail art. So I really hope you all enjoy watching. Now before jumping into the video, I just wanted to say I hope you all had an absolutely amazing Christmas and I really hope 2022 is good to you all. I'm super excited to see what 2022 has to offer us from Kiki London. 2021 was amazing. We had so many amazing launches, including all of the new nail art. So it's been a really exciting one, and I'm sure 2022 is going to be just as exciting when it comes to nails. Now let's jump into the video. I have already done my first coat of coconut on all four of my display tips. I've cured that and then I'm coming in with my second coat. Now with coconut, it's a very highly pigmented colour, so a lot of the time you can get away with only doing one coat with it, especially when you're using it for fine details in nail art. But if I'm using it for a full cover base, I do like to do two coats, but I like to keep those coats nice and thin. Now for the first part of our nail art, I have the Kiki London water decals. These are the old English numbers, and of course I'm going to be using these to write out 2022. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the ones that I need. I kind of just cut them out roughly to begin with off of the sheet, and then I cut them as close to the image as possible. So you want to remove as much of that white backing as you can, because then it's going to just sit a lot nicer on the nail and you're not going to see as much of the clear film. So here you can see I've cut them out fairly close. Now when it comes to applying my water decals, I find the stamper method usually the easiest way, especially if I've got the tacky layer of my gel polish to work over the top of. So because these are only small decals and I'm going to be placing one on each nail, I've popped down two on my stamper head to begin with, and then I'm using my round nail art brush just to moisten the back of that water decal to help the backing paper slide off from the image. Then you're able to look through your stamper. I like to press down, give it a little wriggle, and that water decal easily releases from the stamper to your nail. Then I'm going to take my Kiki London silicone tool and just smooth out any creases, any bubbles that might be in that water decal. It also helps to remove any excess water, and it just makes sure that that decal has been firmly adhered to your gel polish. I just also want to take a moment to apologise for my voice. I have a bit of a sore throat, so it's made doing voiceovers a little bit tricky. So now that I've done the 2 and the 0, I'm going to come in and do the last two 2s. Again, same method as before. I'm just running a little bit of water over that backing paper. You really don't need a lot. You only need to really dampen them enough so that that backing paper will slide off from your image. Then I like to do a nice firm press down on the nail and a little wriggle and lift off. And because, like I said, you've got that tacky layer from the gel polish, that grabs hold of the decal and pulls it off of the stamper in a way anyway. So I find it really, really easy. If you haven't got the tacky layer from a gel polish, say you've already top coated, or if you're working over a build gel that you've filed, then I do find the stamper method a little bit more tricky and would usually use the traditional method. So this is what our nails are looking like now. We've got all of those water decals applied. Now I want to seal these in before I move on to my next part of my nail art design. So I'm going to come in with the Kiki London top coat. Now this is the top coat that leaves a tacky inhibition layer, and I went for this one because I'm going to be applying more gel polish over the top, and sometimes I prefer to have that tacky layer to work on top of, especially when you're working on a client. It kind of just helps that next layer and stops any potential peeling or anything like that. And I do find this a fab top coat, and I don't work with it too often. I also wanted to point out it's an amazing top coat for going over stamping because you don't get any separating or anything like that. You know, some top coats can separate over stamping. I always find that this particular one doesn't. So I've cured that for 60 seconds, and now I want to do some marbling. So for my marble, I have Mystic Noir. And then we also have Sleek Slate. So Sleek Slate is from the fall 2021 collection. So this was the last gel polish collection. Then we have a Silver Shrine. Now Silver Shrine is one of my absolute favourite Kiki London colours. It's not only a silver, it has this beautiful pink pearlescent effect to it as well. And then lastly, we have Navy Baby, which was also from the fall 2021 collection. And I'm popping these all down on my new Kiki London palette. I'm really loving this palette, just how pretty is it? So what I'm going to do is I'm putting a generous amount of the polish down onto my palette, and then I'm going to pop all 4 colours next to each other. You do want to be careful that you're not contaminating each colour with the previous colour, so always check your brush before you pop it back in the bottle. And I'm putting down a fairly generous amount because I'm going to be doing marbling on all 4 nails. But if you don't pop down enough, you can always come in with some more whenever you start running out on your palette. So now that I've got all 4 of those colours down, I'm taking the dotting end of my gem tool and I'm just marbling those through. So as you can see, I'm just running that dotting tool through, and that's creating that marble effect. I wanted a little bit more of the silver shine in there, so I just popped some of that down and marbled it in. And then we're going to move back to the nails. So before applying that marble, sorry, I lost my words there. Before applying the marble to the nails, I'm going to put a thin coat of the Kiki London base coat down. So this is the regular base coat, not the rubber base coat. If you don't have this one, you could use the rubber base coat, but it might not work as well because the rubber base coat is that little bit thicker. I'm using this base coat basically like a blooming gel. So I've popped that layer of base coat down, and then I'm just picking up my marble using the round brush and letting it flow into that wet uncured base coat. You don't want to play around with this too much. You kind of just want to float it on and gently ease it where you want it to go. If you play around with it too much, the colours are going to marble together a lot more, and then they're just going to end up mixing together and making one sort of muddy, mushy looking colour. And depending on how you want your marble to look, you just want to kind of gently ease it into that base coat so that you can still see all 4 different colours and the definition of the lines that you've created on the palette. As we work up to where I want that marble to end, I'm kind of just playing around with it using the very tip of my brush and getting it to melt into that base coat. I haven't applied the base coat all the way up to the 2 because I don't want the marble to float and go over the 2. I just want it to kind of, the edge to kind of blur out, if that makes sense. And what I'm going to do is once I finish this, before popping it into cure, I'm going to leave it to sit there for a little bit longer. Then what's going to happen is that colour is going to bloom into the base coat a little bit more, and it's going to get rid of that harsh line where the marble ends. So on the first nail, I started at the tip of the nail, and I actually found this a little bit difficult because it meant I couldn't pull the colour where I wanted it to go as easily. So this time I started at the centre of the nail, blended down towards the tip, and then I got those more nicer defined lines. And then I just took a little bit more to finish off the edges here. And it also really helped me create that more messy, wavy edge as well. And I really loved how this turned out. I knew I wanted to do marbles and I knew I wanted these wintry colours in there, but it kind of ended up having a bit of a galaxy vibe and also a bit of a ocean waves vibe, which kind of looked like we was washing away 2021 and easing into 2022. But let me know in the comments below what you thought of this design. I loved how every nail looked slightly different, and that's one of the things that I love about marbles. On the first nail, we got a lot of the lighter greys, and as we work through the nails, the last one ends up looking darkest. You get a lot more of the Mystic Noir and the Silver Shrine in the last 2 nails, where on the first 2 you see a lot more of the Navy Baby. So it was really cool how it gave off a different effect throughout the set, which if I was wearing this myself, I would definitely love. If I was doing this set on myself, obviously you've got a thumbnail to include. I think I would have stuck with the white and the marble, but maybe I would have done a few more crystals where the water decal wouldn't be. Now, one thing to bear in mind when you are doing this, you need to be really careful that you're not putting any air bubbles into your gel polish. So if you do see any bubbles, do just gently ease them out or pop them using your brush. When you are picking up the gel polish off the palette, it is going to be a little bit thicker, and if you work with it too quickly, you can put little air bubbles in there, which you don't want because they will pop when they go into the lamp, and then they leave kind of like these circular patterns in your marble, which doesn't look as nice, or it can ruin the effect. So just take a moment to, 1, be slow as you're applying that marble to the nail, and 2, to just check before you pop it in to cure that there are no air bubbles. And like I said, if there are, they're very easily to work out or pop with your brush. I like to just take my time though. I have sped up the video so it looks as though I'm working faster than I am, but I like to just take my time when I'm picking up that marble and just working it into that wet base coat. Because the base coat is wet, you don't have to do a lot. It pulls the product off your brush into the base coat anyway, so you don't have to work quickly or anything, to be honest. And also you don't want to be working too quickly because, like I said, it will mix those colors together. So this one, as you can see, looks a lot darker in comparison to the first one. And then once I have finished all of these marbles, I did decide actually to give you guys a little close-up of what they look, because from a distance you couldn't really see too much of the lines, but you can see all those defined little waves and swirls. I thought it looked really cool, especially where the Mystic Noir and Silver Shine have a shimmer to them as well. You can really see that amongst the marble. Now I popped these into cure for 60 seconds simply because where we've applied that gel polish a little bit thicker, where we've marbled it together, I wanted to make sure it's fully cured. So whenever I do a marble, I like to give it a 60-second cure rather than a 30-second cure. Now for our next lot of nail art, I wanted to add in some foils. So I'm going to take a box 3, which has these really beautiful shattered effect foils. They just have a slightly different effect to them compared to the regular metallic or holographic foils. And then I'm just going to be applying these as in really thin little veiny lines going through the marble. So what I'm going to do to begin with is wipe off the tacky inhibition layer from the marble that we've applied. So I'm just taking one of the Kiki London alcohol pads and wiping over the nail. Now you want to do this because your foil may stick to any areas where you've got your tacky inhibition layer left from your marble, and obviously we don't want that because I only want my foils to stick to where I'm applying my foil gel. So always cleanse the nail first of all if you're doing any foil details like this. Then taking my foil gel and the stripe liner brush, I'm just creating really thin little lines running through the marble. So I wanted some to be at the edges and then some just running through the marble. And each nail is going to look different because I've tried to follow the pattern that the marble has. So if the swirls are going in one direction, I've tried to follow that direction with my foil gel, just so it all flows and looks appealing to the eye. But it does mean that the lines look slightly different on each nail, which gives off quite a cool vibe. And I'm being really careful when I'm doing this. I want to keep those lines nice and thin. You don't want anything too thick because you don't want to draw too much attention away from the marble. So I'm just taking a really teeny tiny amount on my stripe liner brush and just very carefully running it through. I'm then going to pop these in to cure for 30 seconds. Now I have just cut a small section of that foil off because you're really not going to need loads for this design. This one small section is going to do all 4 nails. And then as you see, I press that down, give it a good rub, and as it's pulled off, you can see that the foil has only transferred to where we've applied that foil gel to. So continuing using that same piece of foil, I'm going to do this to all 4 nails. Make sure that you're using an area of the foil that hasn't been used. So as you can see there's plenty of foil left on there. But if you are struggling, just cut off a new piece. And I love the effect that it gives off. These shattered foils, they obviously reflect holographic, but where they've got that shattered broken effect to them, it gives off a really pretty effect, especially once you've got your top coat over the top. Always making sure you give the entire nail a good rub wherever you've applied that foil gel. You can come in and repress any areas that have been missed. And then this is what the nails are looking like so far. I really felt as though it added to the whole ocean waves vibe. Then I did want to add in some crystals because of course we only very recently released the new Kiki London crystals. So here I have the crystal ABs, and I'm just going to apply my rubber top coat to all of the nails. Although I'm only applying crystals to 2 of the nails, I'm going to be sealing in and finishing off with the rubber top coat anyway. So I'm going to come in and apply this to all 4 nails. Now I opted for the rubber top coat because the marble is going to be uneven compared to a regular gel polish, and also we've got our foils there, so the rubber top coat is nice and thick. It's going to smooth everything out and leave us with a super smooth finish, but just because it's going to get in all of those gaps, or not so much gaps but unevenness from the marble, and give us a nice smooth surface which you want your top layer to feel like. Now because it is slightly thicker, I'm going to go over it and then I'm going to really work it over the marble, really help it self level. level, but then by the time it's left for a minute or two while I'm applying my crystals, it's going to have self-leveled itself anyway before popping into cure. So I'm just going over it a few times to smooth out, and that is simply because I've done the marble. You wouldn't necessarily need to do this if you were just going over a plain gel polish nail, but because we've got that marble there, I'm really wanting to make sure that it encapsulates over that nicely. Then on the middle two nails, I just wanted to add a couple of crystals just to really help finish the set off. So I haven't popped my top coat into cure yet. I'm popping my crystals down into that uncured top coat, picking them up using the waxy end, and then I'm just nudging them into place using the dotting tool end. And then once I'm happy of how they're placed, I'm going to pop all 4 nails in to cure for 60 seconds. And this was the finished result. So we've included lots of different nail art techniques, but it's still created a really simple, pretty set of nails in my opinion. So do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you did enjoy today's video, please do give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment below, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for watching. Happy New Year, lots of love, take care, bye bye.